welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back.
Don't want to get copyright strike right at the start.
Hey.
Welcome back. Season 2 of the
Season 2.
Hill Kings podcast. Got me feeling
Wet-ass P-word.
We're
good.
back. Where did we go? We're not telling you.
We didn't go nowhere,
I went nowhere.
but I do have a couple of new sound bites.
Yes. Season 2. New
Season
sound bites.
2. It's a whole new vibe on the pod, man.
A new whole vibe.
A hole in your vibe.
Mm-hmm.
We did a
new
whole
one.
ass season of a show
Mm-hmm.
and a recap episode.
Yes.
And we only had to re-record 2 of them.
We only had to re-record like 10%
Was it
of the
2?
season.
Was it 2 of them or was it more than that?
No, we just re-recorded twice.
It was just the 2?
Just the 2. We had
Okay.
to re-record Hank's Got the Willies and
Yeah, that's right.
Shins of the Father.
That's right.
Those were
And it
re-records.
is my solemn vow at this, the inaugural episode of season 2, that we will probably not have to re-record anymore.
Fingers crossed.
What's the over-under
crossed.
on when we have to re-record an episode?
I think
2
we're gonna
episodes? We gonna make it 2 in?
I feel like we'll make it like all the way to episode 20 and then have
Oh,
to re-record
shit.
like all the last
Yeah,
ones.
more episodes in this season. We got a full season order.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty exciting.
Yes.
You were
It's a
just telling me
full-fledged
there's a
show.
new director/writer on this
Yeah.
episode. We'll get into it. Don't
Mhm.
worry. We got other shit to cover first.
Yeah.
It's been a day since we've recorded an episode.
Yeah.
Catch me
Nothing
up.
new.
Spill the tea.
It's a Monday. Went to work.
When we're recording this, not when you're listening.
Uh-huh.
Keep
Could be
up.
Monday when you're listening.
Could
Yeah.
be, but not when this episode comes out. And if you're not listening when the episode comes out, then are you really a fan?
Good question. But work was work. What about you? How was your Monday?
It was kind of same, man. Same old vibes. I've probably told you I'm doing a training program for climbing. We like hired coaches, the wife and
Ooh.
I did,
Wow.
and it's killing me.
Yeah.
My fingers are swollen and I have no skin on my hands. Trigger warning for no skin on hands. But I got a
Interesting.
flapper the other day. I'm just missing skin left and right, but I'm getting guns. That's what
This
this
is a
episode is
gun-centric
about.
episode.
This is
It
a
is,
gun one. We should disclaimer off the top. At least, I mean, you can speak for yourself. I don't condone recreational gun use as is depicted in this episode of King of the Hill.
I condone safe gun use.
Yes. In like a hunting context, I do enjoy recreational gun. Were you a gun? Was your family a gun family in
Yeah, we
Oklahoma?
had guns growing up, and then I mentioned I was in the Scouts, and we had some decent firearm.
I thought you like
education
worked at
and
like the
interaction.
lube cart in the
Yes.
Scouts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, besides all of that, you got to know how to handle. You got to know how to handle a barrel
Wet-ass P-word.
to be working the lube shack.
Yeah, you do got to know.
Um,
That's
But
really
yeah,
good.
I know. I know my way around a firearm.
Did your family hunt?
No, not really, because
Mm.
you got to have access to land to hunt.
Oh yeah,
And we didn't
Oklahoma.
necessarily have good access
Yeah.
to land. So no, we really didn't hunt, but shot recreationally a couple times. It's pretty fun, man. You ever shoot
no.
skeet?
Yes, I was actually just about to say my family, particularly my grandfather, he was a big hunter. He would apply to get his moose license every year because if you
Uh-huh.
don't know, listener, I am from northeastern Canada and I did grow
Uh-huh.
up in a log cabin. That is not a joke. That is actually true.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of hunting. I used to hunt with my dad a lot. We would also target practice. We would mainly hunt partridge Little bird
And they can be found
boys.
in pear trees.
Paired,
Yeah.
usually you'd look for a pear tree and then you'd find the partridges would just kind of follow suit once you find the pear tree. But my
Mhm.
dad would have skeet shooting parties. And then the next day I would have to go and pick up all of the broken clay pigeons
Oh
and
no.
save the ones that didn't get shot. Then we would get to shoot at some of the ones that didn't get broken.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, that was the fun part, not the like
Yeah.
5 hours of having to like comb grass for unbroken clay pigeons.
Speaking of clay pigeons, how do you feel about the song "Clay Pigeons" by Blaze Foley and
It's
covered
my
by?
favorite song.
Is it? Nice. Hilarious.
But we're going to get into this
Yeah.
episode. We're going to talk about all of it. We've established our experiences with guns to establish a little bit of credibility, but let's establish some
Mhm.
credibility about fucking TV, because that's what this
Yes.
show is really
Get
about.
into it.
In everybody's favorite segment of the show, this week
week
in
in
Arlen.
Wah, wah, wah.
This week in Ireland, Chris had to get up to go get something, and I didn't want to
No,
wait the whole time.
I was prepared.
This is
I'm a good
the
podcast
segment
host.
of the show where these two professional podcast hosts go through what was going on the week that this here episode of King of the Hill aired in the world, on TV, in movie, in film, in who might have died, because I'm weirdly interested in who died around that time. This episode aired on September 21st, 1997.
Happy
Sunday
anniversary
night.
to me and
Sunday
Rachel.
night. That is Chris's wedding anniversary. But
It's
when this
also
episode,
Rachel's.
no, just yours.
My wife got married that day too.
She married you. You didn't marry
Truly.
her.
Yes.
It's a quote from season 1, episode 9.
Oh
The
yeah.
Toggle Champ. See, we're
I didn't marry
experts.
Peggy. She married
We're
me.
experts on the bish now, but happy negative 20-somethingth anniversary to you on this day. We always love to kick this bish off with talking about the TV Guide. TV Guide website that I pull these screenshots from is still down. Get your shit
Still
together, TV Tango. Get
still
your
fucking
absolute
up.
shit together. Anything call out to you. We got a Barbara Walters special.
Yeah. Um yeah, I mean AFV is on again. It looks like Fox is trying to compete with their world's funniest down there as well. So
Yeah,
it's
that's been a
the
common
battle
theme.
of the
We've got a new show, it appears, on the WB, Nick Frisco, licensed teacher.
No, I think we've seen him before.
We've seen that.
Yeah,
I
I think
couldn't
so.
tell you what that show is.
It's a new episode, but
We
yeah,
got Terminator 2 on NBC though. That's sick.
uh-huh.
I love
Uh
Terminator 2. Judgment
a
Day?
Sunday night movie on ABC, Crowned and Dangerous. I have no idea what that is.
Also intrigued by that. And I do have a note on the episode of The Simpsons here if you are ready to move on.
Well, I was gonna say NBC has also got Terminator 2 on later.
I just said that.
Oh, you did? I wasn't listening. I don't listen when you talk.
Chris.
Check it out, 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 check it out.
That's really the only thing standing out.
Professional podcast host. Motherfucker
Yeah.
doesn't even pay attention to what I'm saying.
I was
The episode of The
flustered.
Simpsons this week was the city of New York versus Homer Simpson. Now, this episode is not a standout in terms of quality, as my opinion, really. But it is famous for this is the one where the Simpsons go to New York. Homer kind of like has a grudge about New York because the one time that he went there, he had a horrible time.
Uh-huh.
But the towers, the World Trade Center towers are
Mm.
depicted in this episode heavily. And there is a moment where Lisa picks up a magazine and it says New York, $9. It's a bus ad. And you
Mm.
can see a 9 and then the two towers in the background, a 1 and a 1.
Whoa.
Literally just spells out 9/11.
Whoa.
And it is
Simpsons did
actually
it.
the world trade. Yeah. This is maybe the most famous case of Simpsons did it. People are obsessed with this because, of course, this episode came out in 1997, 4 years before the World Trade Center famously was attacked.
By
So
George Bush.
by George Bush, who did 9/11. If you're watching FBI agent who is assigned to this podcast. What's up, Rick?
Hello. I hope
Good
you're
to see you,
enjoying.
man.
Leave a comment, like and
Text me
subscribe,
back.
please.
Text me back. I keep just
Dick.
texting FBI. No. Moving on. It was Stephen King's 50th birthday.
Wow.
HBD to the King. It was also Bill Murray's birthday. Lots of famous birthdays
Wow.
on September 21st. Bill Murray's 47th, my guy.
In that year. Dang.
Yeah.
Man.
The movie In and Out came out. This film, I looked into it a little bit. It was kind of a weak September is not a great
Yeah.
time for movie releases, but this is the synopsis. This film was inspired by Tom Hanks's speech when he accepted his 1994 Oscar for the role of Philadelphia.
Oh
This
my God, that
movie
sounds
is
so boring.
inspired by a speech that Tom Hanks gave about his high school drama teacher, uh,
Ah.
Raleigh Farnsworth, and his former classmate, John Gilkerson, the two finest gay Americans, two wonderful men that I had the good fortune to be associated with. Because, of course,
Wow.
Philadelphia, Tom Hanks played a gay character who was dying of HIV, who was being represented in a legal battle where I believe Denzel Washington plays his lawyer. It's a great movie.
Interesting.
Tom Hanks won an Oscar
Okay.
for it. This movie is literally based on Tom Hanks just telling a story about a couple gay dudes. But it
Okay. And he
is
took that and ran.
famous for being one of the first Hollywood like large budget films that featured gay characters uh as like the protagonists. And there is a 12
Interesting.
second kiss between Kevin Kline and Tom Selleck. Sounds
Steamy. Whoa.
spicy.
Selleck? Okay.
Yep, yep. I'm
Um,
pretty sure it's very problematic to go back and watch, but it was directed by Frank Oz, who worked for Jim Henson's studio. He
wow.
was Miss Piggy, he was Fozzie Bear, he was Animal, he was Sam the Eagle, he was Cookie Monster, he was Bert, and he was Grover. So
Wow.
he's like, aside from Jim Henson, he's like the most prolific Muppeteer.
Muppet.
Yeah,
Interesting. Do you
directed this
think
movie.
do you think that this is where the last name Farnsworth comes for in Futurama?
I
Professor
think
Farnsworth?
that is just a last name.
Okay, that's the
But it would
only
be
other time I've
interesting,
heard the name Farnsworth.
yeah, to see if anyone on this movie worked on Futurama. But I feel like it's just like a name.
Yeah, it probably is, but I just picked up on that.
Yep, interesting couple of tidbits there,
Yeah,
though.
that was an interesting tidbit.
Moving on, the OG Resident Evil came out a few days
Nice.
prior on the PlayStation. I remember playing Resident Evil 2 a lot. I don't remember playing Resident Evil 1.
I think 3 was the first time I started playing Resident
Yeah.
Evils. Yeah.
3
I
was
never played the
huge.
OG.
Yeah. Also, Homogenic by Bjork, famous Icelandic pop queen, came out
Ooh,
the following day. Great album.
Bjork.
This is like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 record. I love this album.
Okay. It's a sick
And
album. It's a sick cover.
it is. It really is. Bjork rules, and so does Iceland. And we always love to finish it off with a little bit of death.
Uh-huh.
This was a big day for celebrity birthdays, and it was also a big day for historical figures fucking dying.
Nice.
Virgil, Edward II, who was a king of England, was
Yeah.
assassinated. The Roman general Flavius Aetus
Yeah.
died. Charles V, the King of Spain, also died of malaria on
Wow.
this day. All on September 21st. Different years,
Whoa.
but all on September 21st. Kind of a cursed day
Do
for a
you
lot of
remember?
reasons. Mainly the
Mhm.
one reason being that you got married
Yes.
and you stopped being a cool bachelor.
And now I'm just a dude.
You're
Happily
just a
married dude. with a
happily
kid on
married
the
guy
way.
with a kid on the way. Like a fool. No, just kidding. Chris is about to have a baby
Check it out, 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 check it out.
out of his butt.
Mm-hmm. That's where babies come
Uh,
from, folks.
Babies come from butts. You heard it here first. That
Mhm.
was This Week in Ireland. We should just get right into the episode. I think we should try to keep this one around an hour.
We're gonna try, folks.
Let's
Actually, I think we
make a
can do it
goal
with
for
this one.
ourselves.
I think
We're more efficient. This is the new us. This is season 2. this shit's gonna be concise. We kept the opening under 20 minutes. We got 40
It's good for
minutes.
us.
Chris,
Yeah.
you're driving the mower on this one.
I am. Let's get into it. So this is season 2, episode 1, How to Fire a Rifle Without Really Trying. This was written by, of course, Judge and Daniels, but was also written by Paul Lieberstein, who the audience will know as Toby Flinderson from The Office.
Wow.
That's right. Toby Flinderson wrote this. He's written on a bunch of different stuff. For you guys that don't know Toby, he kind of plays a flub in The Office, but he's got a long list of credits, including in being involved in 52 episodes of King of the Hill,
Really?
in either producer, director, writer roles. So
Now, was any of that concurrent with his time on The Office?
that I don't know. Let's take a quick peek at that.
Well,
He's
he'll come
listed.
up again. We don't
Yeah,
need to learn all about Toby now.
yeah. I believe this is the first time we've seen him writing.
Definitely the first time we've caught it.
Mm-hmm. So he's writing on that, and then we also directors are Wesley Archer, who
The
was on,
king,
I
the
think,
goat.
almost every single episode in the first
Mhm.
season, and then Adam Coleman is also directing in this one. He's famous for working on the Simpsons movie as well as Fern Gully. Did you ever watch
Ah,
Fern
yeah.
Gully?
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
Fern Gully.
he
Classic.
directed on Fern Gully and
Love that.
was an animator kind of in the early 90s, late 80s. So pretty stacked episode in terms of writing
Toby.
talent. But
Toby on
the
the horn.
the blurb for this is when Bobby discovers the one sport he is good at, marksmanship, he and Hank decide to enter a father and son tournament. As it turns out, Hank is a terrible marksman.
Yes, Hank can't shoot.
Hank
Hank
can't shoot.
can't get it up in a way.
Um, before I jump into the episode, Brad, did you pick up anything on the title of this episode?
Oh, I figured it was probably a reference to something.
It is a reference to something. I believe it is a reference to the rom-com musical movie How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, which is a
Ah,
movie that came out in 1967. It's a film adaptation of a musical, came out
hmm.
in 1961, and the musical is an adaptation based off of a book from 1952,
Damn,
all
nothing's
titled,
original nowadays, huh?
no. Um, yeah, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying is kind of it's a satirical self-help business type of thing, and the way the musical
Interesting.
works is um, a guy kind of follows this satirical advice book to the T, and it actually does get him up in the company.
Huh.
Um, so yeah, it's actually this episode is a reference, um, to another piece of pop culture.
As most, it seems most of a lot of the episodes are,
So far,
which I
yeah.
do appreciate. I do appreciate a reference.
Yes. Oh, we
I'm here
love
for it.
references
We
on this show.
love a reference.
We believe
We're
that you, the
constantly
listeners.
referencing shit.
But yeah, we'll jump into it. This one is just going to be an opening with the credits, so no cold open here.
Hot open,
Uh,
as we like to say.
hot open. After the open, we are at the Texas State Fair. We're greeted by Big Tex, the large animatronic Texan at the Texas State Fair. Have you ever been to the Texas State Fair, Brad?
I have not. I've been to the Oklahoma State Fair.
Ah,
Haven't
the
made it to
Texas
the
State Fair is
Texas
a
one.
big deal. It's also when the OU Texas football game happens there. Big deal, big time. But the Hills are at the Texas State Fair. Hank and Bobby are playing some carnival games, and Bobby's not really good at the
Bobby
throwing
just can't
ones.
throw.
He can't throw. However, Bobby's going to pick up a rifle for a duck shooting game. Hank is going to say it's okay to look down the iron sights. That's not cheating, which I think is kind of weird. He's
Why
like,
would that be cheating? That's
just
what they're
I think
there
he's telling
for.
him like, you can aim the gun. That's what you're supposed to do. Um, but it turns out Bobby, gets the first duck on his first try, and Hank says, "Wow, lucky shot."
Yeah.
Uh, kind of pedantically, but then Bobby proceeds to just pew pew pew
Wait.
knock them all down. Um, wins himself a prize, and that's pretty much the first scene's a real short, sweet. Them at the fair, they're back in the car, and Hank is excitingly telling Peggy, yeah, he must have killed a
Way to
thousand
kill
ducks.
ducks. And it's
Yeah.
all the focus is on killing. Couple things I
Mhm.
noticed in this first scene. Holy shit, the animation's so much better.
Yes.
Already off the bat,
Yes.
you can tell that the budget has been increased along with the
Hmm.
full season order. The animation is so much smoother. All of the character models look so much better. Still hand drawn, but this is like the King of the Hill that I remember. It's
Yeah.
much less crude. Um, there is a part of it when there's like a ping pong ball
Uh-huh.
related game,
Yep.
and Bobby picks up a couple of the ping pong balls and puts them in his mouth
Puts
and
him in his
says,
mouth.
"Look, Dad, I'm the commish."
Yeah.
Did you
Did you
did
look
you
into
look
that?
into that? I
I
did.
did not.
So
Tell
the
us about it.
commish, I believe what they're referencing is a show from it first started airing in 1991. It's an American comedy drama television series that aired on ABC from 91 to 96 starring Michael Chiklis. It
Okay.
is a propaganda show. It's just all about this police officer who I believe is the city commissioner. Uh,
Oh.
and I think that this is just them kind of like making fun of Michael Chiklis for being like kind of fat.
No. Interesting.
Yeah.
I figured it was
I I
in
pulled up like
reference to
one
something.
scene from it. This is just a little clip.
He said that he was worried about the brass.
His tour supervisor?
That's how he
Special
talks.
units? Me? Did he say who?
Very like kind of cop type of talk, early
Yeah,
90s
I'm a
type of situation.
streetwise type of cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
But that is the commish.
So we get back to the Hill residence. Hank and Peggy are getting ready for bed, and Hank is really excited about Bobby being good at shooting, and he's telling Peggy, this could be Bobby's sport. Like, I think it's time to get him a rifle. Um, Peggy is less excited. She thinks Bobby is too young to own a gun, and Hank says he was too young to own a gun 5 years ago. So Hank
Which
thinks it's
Bobby's what,
okay
like
for
11?
7-year-olds. Yeah, yeah, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Um, he says I never get to bond with Bobby because he's not very good at stuff. Which is
Sick
a little
burn.
bit mean. But he is very excited about this. And when I watched this for the first time, I was like, look at Hank being excited about
Just
hanging out with Bobby.
only because Bobby's good at something that he considers good. So there's
Yeah.
still that twinge of him being kind of a piece of shit, but
Yeah.
he's at least excited and wants to
Yes.
spend time with Bobby. He does make a Cats in the Cradle reference here in
Mm-hmm.
this scene, which I think is always funny, like, because that song is just all about a dad realizing that he kind of missed out on his
Mm-hmm.
whole kid's childhood. And Peggy also says that's like giving Boggle to an 8-year-old.
Yes, I thought that was very funny.
She's
That
like, which essentially they shouldn't. That's
Yeah, she's like, you can,
preposterous.
but you shouldn't. Yeah. Hank also makes mention in his Cats in the Cradle reference there that he doesn't want to wait until Bobby's too busy running his own propane business.
Mhm. I did like that. And I'm
Um,
curious if this reboot actually happens because they did confirm that if it does, it's going to be like a time skip situation.
Interesting.
So I think it would be interesting to see what Bobby is doing as an adult. Because
Yeah.
I'm guessing what the series is going to center around, like older Hank and Peggy and Bobby as like a grown up.
Yeah.
Is he a prop comic? Does he
Or
work at a
does he
propane
run
place?
propane?
Yeah,
Those are the only two options.
those are literally the only two options.
So we immediately cut to the next day. We're at Megalo Mart. Hank asks where the children's guns are at.
Children's guns section.
And he's told they're in aisle 47. Kind of funny. Bobby is really excited. He asks, can I put a gun rack on my bike? And Hank is like, do you know how long I've been waiting for you to ask me that question?
Yeah, I feel like this is a scene that a lot of people who didn't grow up in like Texas or the South really wouldn't understand. Like going to like a superstore like this, like a
Uh-huh.
Walmart style. I'm guessing this is Megalomart that they're at,
Yeah,
which is just
it's
Walmart.
Megalo Mart.
Guns in Walmart aren't a thing everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that when I remember when I moved to Oklahoma and I like walked through a Walmart for the first time, I was like, what the fuck? There's like a
Wait, you
whole
have guns in
section
here?
of guns everywhere? Not
I
a
mean,
thing everywhere.
they're not the best guns, but yeah, they got
But
guns in there.
still, they got a shitload of guns at
But
Walmart.
Bobby's really excited. They run up to the counter, get a gun purchased. Bobby's got a good feeling about this one right here, and it's a nice little wholesome scene between Bobby and Hank, getting excited. Hank says, this reminds me of my first rifle, and kind of reminds me of the one your grandpa started on. So it's a good scene all around. But gonna basically cut to the next day to the Arlen Gun Club,
This
which is
was
a
my
little
favorite
shack.
scene
This
of
is
the
one of my
episode.
favorite scenes.
I loved this.
This is yeah, this is really funny. They're walking up to it and Bobby says, like, I always thought this was a crack house. Um which is kind of
So
funny.
Bobby knows what a crack house is.
Bobby knows what a crack house
And
is.
Arlen has crack houses,
Yep.
supposedly.
Mm-hmm. Or
Also
so
good to
Bobby
know.
thinks.
Yeah.
We go in and it's Dale gathered around a table with some random dudes.
Yeah.
And
Dale wearing like a beret and like
Dale's got a
full
beret.
army fatigues.
Mm-hmm.
Cosplaying.
Gossiping.
They're just cosplaying.
Uh-huh. There's some funny posters on the wall that they'll
Yes.
reference.
And a rat head
Mm-hmm.
that is mounted. Their biggest kill, their biggest
Uh,
hunting kill was just a tiny little rat.
Hank is gonna, Dale is like, "Oh, Hank, you finally decided to join the club." And Hank's like, "Well, I just, wanted to see if we could use the range." And they say, "Well, it's a $2 fee for non-members to shoot." Bobby asks, "Well, how much is the membership?" And Dale says, "Lifetime
That's free.
membership is free."
And they'll pay
Uh,
you if you join there's like an ad for like
Soldiers wanted for local rebellion,
a
$5 an hour.
militia. They
Yeah,
pay you $5 an hour to join.
$5.
So.
Pretty good deal.
And the guy on the poster is hot.
Yeah.
He's a real looker.
Mm-hmm. So Hank takes Bobby out to the range and he's starting to explain, flipping the safety off, and Bobby just goes to town. Bang, bang, bang.
Thinks 5.
Gets
Right in the
gets the
middle.
target back, and an onlooker is very impressed. There's a random guy there that is very impressed, and we get an extremely enthusiastic "hell yeah, that's my boy" from Hank.
Yeah. He's stoked.
He's very stoked, and he says, "Bobby, what you did is good. This was a good thing." Like,
just shooting, killing, good.
yeah. Well, not every time you shoot is killing.
Yes, but that is
targets.
I think that was kind of the overarching joke of
bit.
this episode is like it's such a wholesome thing. It's Hank and Bobby bonding. They never acknowledge, like, not until Hank is just trying to make up an excuse does he
Yes.
acknowledge the problem with
Yep.
guns, and specifically, I think in the South and Texas on the whole. I mean, look at the state of the world now, not to get political,
Whoa.
but they don't ever acknowledge the, like, reason that guns exist is to kill things. It's more of just like a game. Which is, I think, a large part of gun culture and the propaganda that the NRA puts forth.
A little bit, yes, certainly. But Bobby has done a really good job here. This onlooker is going to ask. This guy is going to ask if they're going to join the father and son fun shoot.
Yeah, there's like a conveniently placed poster in the background.
Yes, of course, it's right there. It's right where we need it to be for the plot.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be plot in the show.
Yeah, of course. Funny note here. They make mention that the father and son fun shoot is sponsored by the Arlen Endowment for the Arts.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny that their art
that
fund
is
is putting on the.
That's in Texas. That is art. Hank
Yeah,
also
in
says
Arlen
that he hasn't shot a gun since a Texas was in the office.
And not Herbert Walker.
Yeah.
Bush.
So that would have been LBJ, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Like 60s, Hank would have been like a small child. And in this flashback that we get, Hank seems as though he's like a 6-year-old boy.
I think Hank actually might be younger.
Yeah,
So
he's a little tiny boy.
we get into this flashback because it's Hank's turn to shoot, and as he raises the rifle, he's shaking, and we kind of get
Because
into this
Cotton is just
flashback here.
screaming at him, which I could relate a lot with this. Just
Yes. Mhm.
not being taught in a soft
Yeah.
manner.
He's trying to shoot a beer can. That's classic learning to shoot. Um, Shooting at cans. But yeah, Cotton is really digging into him. Um, Hank, little Hank pulls the trigger and gets knocked back on his butt. And Cotton is going to kind of dig into him, and say this is probably the reason that kid on the playground stole your pail because he knew you
Yeah,
couldn't shoot.
and because you're 4 years old.
Yes. Young Hank's head is huge here. I don't know
Young
if you
Hank
caught
was
on to that.
adorable. This was my favorite part of the whole episode. Young Hank was so cute. He was such a cute little guy.
I just thought it was funny that the dilemma is he got his a pail, like a bucket, a small
Yeah,
bucket,
for in the
stolen on the
sandbox.
playground. And the reason that the kid stole it is because he could tell that Hank couldn't shoot a gun.
Yeah. He's like, what are you gonna
Obviously.
do? Shoot me?
Yeah. Um, but yeah, Hank is a bad shot, and he's pretty ashamed about it. And one of the reasons I think in this flashback Hank is really young, is because Hank says he wants his binky back,
Yeah.
and Cotton says like you can have your binky back when you come in firing. So this to me makes it seem like Hank is like no older than 4,
Yeah.
like
He's
3 or 4,
a
shooting a
small
gun.
child. No wonder he's afraid of guns.
He was playing with a
Uh
bucket on the playground. Yeah, that was
yeah.
kind of my thing too. Like Cotton was being a dick to him, but if he was, that's much too young to be
Yeah,
shooting
man.
a
Yeah.
long gun like that.
Yeah. But when they're at the range and Hank does take a shot, it still hits the paper.
uh, Eventually he does hit the paper. Yes,
In this scene, he hits it.
in the beginning scene I think he misses.
I took a
No.
note. He like grazes the side of it when
Oh,
he
he
like
does. He
hides the
has a
paper from Bobby.
yeah. He
Yeah.
puts it in
When
his
he comes
pocket.
out of the flashback, he like takes a shot and whiffs, but he grazes it.
Yeah, but
That would be
he
a
is
flesh
ashamed.
wound.
Um, yeah. So after we find out Hank is a bad shot, then we cut to commercial break.
Yes. First commercial break, and we come back in the kitchen, yeah?
Yes, we come back in the kitchen and Bobby is reading Pleasure, Kill, and Leisure magazine, which I
I
think.
paused it here and did you read any of the article names?
No, I didn't read what else was on the
Uh,
cover.
the first thing I noted was it's a guy holding up a fish and in one hand and a gun in the other. So he shot this fish,
Shooting fish in
presumably,
a barrel.
which is hilarious. One of the article names was 10 most relaxing firearms.
Hilarious.
How firearms saved our marriage. And then we've got the results of the mother-daughter national shoot-off. So similar to the
Oh,
father-daughter, maybe the mother-daughter one came first. But we've got the
interesting.
results of that.
That's
And
hilarious.
Bobby's
No, I did
also
not read
wearing his
those.
safety vest at the table. So he's just
Yes.
wearing it around. He's stoked. He's showing Hank the magazine.
Yes, he's saying like, "Ooh, that's a cool gun. Ooh, that's a nice gun." And Hank is like a little bit annoyed by this. He's like, "Yes, yes, they're all nice guns and all guns are nice."
He's threatened.
He I'm not I don't exactly know if he's threatened by Bobby. I couldn't tell if he was like threatened by Bobby's success or if he was more ashamed of himself.
I think it was both. Like
It's probably a little
he
of both.
wants to nurture Bobby. He's excited about it, but then he's also like, "Oh, I'm bad at this."
Yeah, he probably was threatened by it. Um, he starts to kind of put up some fronts here, and he tells Bobby that, before we enter this tournament, let's see if you really like it. He says, you know what happened with the tap dancing lessons.
We don't want another repeat of the tap lesson situation.
Before we start buying paraphernalia and accessories. So apparently, at some point in time in the past, Bobby got really hyped about tap. They probably bought a bunch of expensive tap shoes and accessories, and then he didn't end up liking it.
Yeah.
So
Do you think
Hank's
Hank was as
logic is
supportive about the tap thing?
I don't. Oh, absolutely not. Nice.
That could be tap or a gun.
It could be. But yeah, Hank's trying to kind of ice him. He's trying to cool it. So after he says we should, do this safety meeting, that's where we're gonna cut over to. And this was one of my favorite
I
scenes.
loved this part.
Was the firearm
The safety course.
safety.
The ABCs of reloading. A lot of good posters in this episode.
A lot of good posters, a lot of good lines. We start with the instructor of the class. The instructor of the class says, "I didn't know it was loaded is not a good excuse. I
And
wasn't
he has
there,
an eye
or I've
patch and
never
is
met
missing a
those."
thumb. We
Yeah,
should
eye
mention.
patch, missing a thumb. He says, "I didn't know it was loaded is not a good excuse." He says, "I wasn't there and I've never met those people are better excuses." So yeah, he says, "I wasn't there, I've never met those people" is a good excuse. He kind of in a droning kind of voice eventually says that he used to get so excited that he hit the paper that he would run out onto the shooting range, and that's how he lost this thumb and eventually my eye.
Yeah.
And then he
So two
says,
separate occasions.
two separate occasions he ran out onto the range, and then he says, "If I had never gradually accepted the NRA's safety guidelines, I would be a stub standing here before you."
And he's kind of leaning side to side as he's saying that. I think this guy might be a little like
Definitely.
touched.
I think
He's not fully like there,
I was looking back at the credits of this episode, and Eustace is credited here. They have the character Eustace listed in this show. If you recall Eustace from
Oh yeah,
the Order of the
useless.
Straight Air. Yeah, Eustace. Um, he's listed there, but I think the person that's who Bobby is sitting next to in the gun safety class is
Useless Eustace is there.
Eustace's son from that Order of the Straight Arrow episode.
Nice.
Either that or it's the son from the guitar shop from Hank's Got the Willies. But it's
Also a great little gag character.
It's definitely a kid in Arlen that we've seen before.
I will
off
put
to
up
the
a
side.
screenshot on the here screen if you're watching on YouTube, and we will later future us will get to the bottom of who this is.
Yeah. So they're gonna get out to the range. The guy is trying to explain all this safety stuff to Bobby, and he's like, the guy's like, "Wow, you just hit 6 dead center," and he's like, "I know, but do I do this first or that?"
Yeah,
first?
he's just focused on the safety part of it, which he should be.
Bobby is focused on the safety part. The instructor is not, because he runs out onto the range again.
He gets all excited and runs out just while people are shooting.
Yeah.
And just is waving it around.
I really loved that guy, and this safety scene was so funny. But,
yeah, just him with the missing thumb.
We're back to the house, and Hank is trying to back out again. He's saying, it's the new propane season. All this
He's got a lot going on.
Peggy is like jazzercise exercising. She's got like an outfit
Great
on.
outfit. It's the same outfit from season 1 when her and Luann are exercising and Bobby joins them.
As we're back to the range, and Hank misses his first shot, and Bobby starts to give him some pointers, and that triggers another flashback for Hank.
Yeah.
We're now at looks to be like a scouts camp. And Cotton is giving a speech, and he says, "You all eventually will be drafted into war. Some of you, like Hank, will be killed."
It's definite you will be drafted into a war. And it is just the alley guys. It's Boomhauer, Dale, Bill, and Hank.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But
as little boys.
Cotton says that Hank will be killed in this flashback.
Yeah.
But if you learn to shoot, then you will become a war hero.
Yeah, really good at instilling confidence. They also show up to the range super early, so Hank can shoot before. I think his excuse is you have to get used to the pressure of shooting when no one is around.
Yes, which was very funny.
But it's just because Hank is embarrassed as fuck.
Yes. So Hank makes an excuse that, his gun's not working. He's going to go sit this out, and he's going to go over into the locker room where
Yeah, he
there's
blames
just,
the shaft, and Bobby's like, "There's not a
there's
shaft."
not a shaft on a gun.
But that was a dick joke. That was definitely
Mhm.
a dick joke.
Yeah. Yeah, Hank's got something wrong
He's
with his.
emasculated because his dick doesn't work.
Hmm. Can't shooting blanks, so they say.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with
Not
that.
you. Not
No,
you, Chris.
verifiably.
About to poop out a baby. That shit works.
I
You got
did it
cum in
once.
there, don't you?
Hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
My God.
Do not come.
Give me the Luann hot and bothered.
Hot and bothered?
No, the heart racing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is your heart racing? Are you upset?
Yes.
Anyway.
So we have a little bit of a guest star here
Yes,
in
my
this
dude,
scene.
Wallace
It's
Shawn.
Wallace Shawn.
Freaking
Wallace Shawn.
Mr. Potato Head,
No,
right?
he's Rex in Toy
Oh,
Story.
Rex. God damn, yeah. I
He's
know that.
Rex. He's in The Princess Bride.
Yes,
Wallace
famously.
Shawn.
Clueless.
He's in all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime you need somebody to play uh, kind of a hacky, griftery type of character, Wallace Shawn is perfect for it. And
Yeah, he's a mischievous type.
whenever I heard his voice coming through, I was like sick. I was
It's
very
such a
excited.
unique and distinct voice for
It
a
really
person to
is.
have. And I love it. And I love him, and I'm glad that we get him in this episode.
He's gonna start talking to Hank, and Hank's like, "Do you just hang out in here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I come in the morning when the bad shots come in." And then he says, "In the afternoon, I go to the bowling hour. Go to the bowling alley. Losers are very predictable."
Yep.
He says. He gives Hank his card, and then he goes, "You're gonna tear that up."
And Hank stops himself from tearing it up. He
He's
also
essentially
says
calling Hank a loser.
that he worked with the Dallas Cowboys. And
Uh-huh.
Hank was like, "When?" And he was like, "Last season." Hank's like, "Later."
Later.
But I did look it up. The Cowboys, if this is taking place in 1997, they were 6-10 that year. So not great.
In
Year
97, they were 6-10.
Yeah. 96 they were
So-
10-6. So I'm guessing he's referencing the 96-97 season,
Yeah.
which was a poor season for them
Yeah.
compared to years
Interesting.
prior.
So yeah, he's gonna take this guy's card, and then we
Doesn't
get
rip it
Hank.
up.
He doesn't rip it up, but we get Hank and Bobby back to the house. They're getting out of the car, and Bobby's like, "Well, when can we practice shooting? Like, can we do it after work?" And Hank's like, "No, I would have to like go to work, go to the firing range, and that would take 10 minutes. So no." He's making up excuses.
Yep.
And Bobby's like, "Well, I can take my guns to school, and we can, squeeze off a few rounds in between classes." And this is where Hank is going to say, like, "You shouldn't take guns to school. Guns are dangerous." And Bobby's going to say, "Guns are dangerous." And then we hear Dale
What?
in the background. What?
And then all of the alley boys come out of the woodwork.
Yeah. Hank's like, "Oh, brother, Bobby, go clean the guns. I'll be in a second." So Bobby goes to the porch to clean the guns, and the gang is upset.
Yeah, this I found to be the most like poignant social commentary of the
This is where
episode,
they
if I were to
get-
put on my philosopher's hat,
which you
as
do.
it were, which I do on occasion. But the fact that Hank is only critical of the NRA because he's trying to like avoid being embarrassed is really funny, because it is such a thing, I think, amongst the gun enthusiast community, where we don't acknowledge the bad stuff that guns can do. We only acknowledge that it's good and we're infallible and guns don't kill people, people kill people, and it's not a gun problem, it's a mental health problem. That's
Yeah,
essentially the rhetoric that Hank is spouting off, but it's really funny that he's only saying that because he's embarrassed.
Yeah. I also think too there is a pretty big disconnect between NRA members and like individual people, and then what the NRA actually does.
Yes, but there are a lot of people out there who really support the NRA and think that every person in the United States should have 70 guns and that background checks shouldn't be a thing. And
I think that's probably a minority among NRA members, individual members.
yes, but it is still prevalent. I mean,
They're out
and
there.
not acknowledging that guns are an issue, I think, is wild considering the state that we live in this country right now, too.
Yeah. There's a real interesting, I know you to plug some other podcasts. One of my
I'm gonna
favorite.
bleep that.
Yep.
I'm gonna bleep it.
That Brad, you would actually maybe find this interesting. Do you
No,
listen to
tell me. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
recommendations to podcasts.
We're
I
all
want to
about
hear.
all
The
about
listeners don't
recommendations.
get to hear it though.
Do you know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
podcast?
yeah.
He's
Bleeping
got
that, but yeah.
he's got a really, really good couple of episodes on the NRA that really talks about, what what the organization does, like where it started, what it does now. The guys are upset hearing that guns are dangerous. We get a nice conspiracy line from Dale who says guns don't kill people, the government kills people. Hank is kind of pushing back on the guys, and he is gonna kind of get Dale's brain to freeze up here. He's gonna say, Dale, the NRA is a DC based organization. Are you telling me that you support Washington DC? Which gives Dale like a 2-second pause, and he goes, "That's a thinker." Takes his hat off, scratches his head, and smokes his
Fully
cigarette, and is
breaks
essentially
his
quiet.
brain.
Yeah, he's essentially quiet for the rest of the scene.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. So we get this episode, we get Dale in the gun club, and then we get Dale in the alley. And he's great the couple times we see him.
Yeah, solid both Dale scenes here. I do like the one in the gun club especially.
And
He also in the gun club makes like a catty remark about Hank's jacket. He says Hank's
so
jacket
Desert
is so
Storm.
Desert Storm.
So funny. Which at this point in time, like the first Desert Storm would have been like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
4 or 3
so
years
out of
ago,
fashion, out of style.
But anyways, Dale and Bill are going to both kind of present Hank with some hypothetical questions. Dale is like, someone breaks into your house at night. How are you going to shoot him if you don't have a gun?
And he's just directly quoting an issue from like the May issue of the NRA magazine
the
or
August
something.
issue. And then Bill is going to kind of do the same thing, except he's going to ask about the shooting tournament. The guys seem to think that Hank is like giving up his guns here. And Hank is just like, I'm not going to shoot. But essentially, Bill is like, well, how are you going to shoot in that contest if you don't have a rifle? And then Hank is finally going to say, like, I'm not shooting in any contest, which Bobby is going to overhear. Bobby gets really bummed. He's going to go over to the trash can and take off his cute little safety vest.
Throws it out.
Peggy is going to come out and be like, Bobby, you have been sleeping in those clothes for 2 weeks. What are you doing? And
Hope they washed it.
Bobby's gonna tell Peggy that he thinks that he made Hank not like guns. Bobby thinks that Hank is worried that Bobby is gonna embarrass him. So this really, really bums Bobby out, and it like genuinely made me sad for Bobby.
But it's also really funny because just the thought of like, oh, he doesn't love guns anymore. His life is ruined. It's like that is such an important part of life.
Peggy even says that your father's love for firearms is unconditional.
Yeah, it's like you should be saying that about him.
Yeah. And we've seen that before, like in
and she's
Hank's
like,
Got
it
the
must be
Willies.
true. Like your dad loves guns.
It
must be your fault, Bobby.
It must be you because he loves guns.
And Peggy also does a really bad job of consoling Hank in like the following scene too.
Yeah, it's very funny. So Peggy immediately goes into the garage where Hank is struggling to put a hammer on a
trying to like put a hammer on the peg wall. So good.
Mallet. She's gonna say, like, how could you do this? Blah blah blah. Peggy's gonna say something along the lines of guns are keeping this family together, which I thought was pretty funny. Hank is going to
ass P word.
That was the wrong soundbite. Sorry.
There we go. Hank is going to admit to Peggy that he's not a very good shot. Peggy is going to turn away from him with this
She can't even look
shook
at him.
look on her face, and she says, "I still love you." Um, and he's like, "Yes, but will the rest of the town be that forgiving?"
He'll be a laughing stock.
He'll be a laughing stock, and Peggy is going to point out that it's really not fair to Bobby that Hank
Yep.
doesn't want to spend time with him. This is what, Bobby seems to like it. He's good at it. So Peggy is going to point out that it's not fair, but I do think it's very funny that she says she still loves him when he admits to being a bad shot.
Yeah. And while this is going on, Bobby is also taking off his camo pants and throwing them
We
out
see
as
him
well.
we see him through the window taking his pants off, which was very funny.
Yeah. And now he's just
Um,
in his tidy whities sulking next to a tree with a rifle in his hands.
Very funny. Um, Hank is going to come over and be like, Bobby, get your clothes out of the trash. We're going to need these for the tournament, which, lights Bobby back up. He's all excited. And, Bobby starts to talk about, like, we're going to win. We're the best, Hills don't lose and all this. And Hank is trying to temper Bobby's expectations here. He's going to say, like, well, winning isn't everything, or, like, you don't have to, you don't go in every time expecting to win. And, he can't dampen Bobby's spirits. Bobby just knows they're going to win. So Hank gets kind of this concerned look on his face, like, oh, I'm in it now. And that takes us to our second commercial break, is when Hank says that they can shoot in the tournament.
Yep. And then we come back right at the frickin' tournament.
No, we don't. First, we have to
Oh,
visit the
sports
sports
psychology guy.
psychologist.
We get some more Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, we get
How
a
could
little
I
bit more
forget?
Wallace Shawn. It's very funny. Hank's gonna bust up into the office and be like, "Look, Mister, I don't believe in any of this gobbledygook." He goes, "I don't believe in a self or a subconscious." Uh, he says, "No pills, no witchcraft, and no
No
molestation." And
molestation.
Wallace Shawn is, or Sean Wallace. Uh,
It's
Wallace
Wallace
Shawn.
Shawn.
It's
It's
Wallace
Wallace
Shawn.
Shawn. Yeah.
It could be either. He's got two last names.
He's got two first names.
He says, like, well, I can do it with no pills, no witchcraft, or no molestation, but it'll be difficult.
Yeah. He
Which I
also
think is
says
funny.
visualization is probably the only legitimate part of what we practice.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll just teach you the stuff that actually is legitimate.
It's very funny that Hank also starts to actually, like, open up about he, like, actually starts to get into the therapy, and he says, like, every time I shoot, I keep thinking of my dad yelling at me, and like, I was afraid to let him down, and I was so scared. And Wallace Shawn just shuts him off, and he's like, Hank, you're wasting valuable session time, because they weren't there to fix Hank's problems.
Yeah, they're there
They
to
were
have
there
him be
to
able
help
to shoot.
make him shoot. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought this was very funny that Hank actually started to open up in a therapy setting.
And we learned that that's bad to do.
Um, so he gets a little bit of confidence here in the office, and then we cut to the day of the shoot.
Yeah, he tells him to imagine. I I don't remember what Wallace Shawn tells
butterfly.
him. A butterfly, and he's
Flying
like,
the
"How
bullet to the
about I
target."
imagine a McDonnell Douglas L-1011 wide body?"
Yeah.
Which is such a weird reference to make of like a commercial plane.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess Hank's into planes.
I guess so. Yeah, but he's like, I am not imagining a butterfly. And then they try to add audio to the visualization, and he's like, now when you're pulling the trigger, say to the end of the rainbow. And he's like, I'm not saying that. He's like, say whatever you want. And I think
Yep.
Hank says, like, prepare for top speed or whatever.
Yeah,
So Hank
prepare for
kind
top
of gets
speed.
himself into this visualization, talking himself up.
And
type
one
of
session
routine.
really is all he gets before we
Yeah.
just
Dude,
go
Wallace
right
Shawn,
into the tournament.
he crushed it,
It's kind of a
honestly.
miracle worker.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the
Well,
next day at the shoot, and there's a lot of bikini clad ladies all over the
yes,
place.
I thought one of them looked so similar to Luann. I was
One
like,
of
wait,
them
is that
looked
Luann?
so similar to Luann.
But it was not Luann. We get to see Luann for the first time
That one that looked
in
like
this
Luann had a
season.
heart on her chest, a little heart tattoo.
Booby heart.
Yeah, I noticed
Yeah.
that. I thought you did.
No, I was focused on Luann.
Yeah, you were looking at her eyes, huh?
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, they go
I'm
through
gonna
all the
come.
different stages of the shoot. There's the tandem shoot. Um, there's the shadowy figure in the hallway shoot, which
Yep.
was kind of funny. They've got a
They
simulated
it's
hunt.
you got to pull the gun out from under your bed,
Yeah.
which is great gun safety.
Yeah, that's definitely bad gun safety. Um, so yeah, they essentially kind of like get right into it, and Hank misses his first shot on the tandem shoot.
Yep.
But
Wallace
then
Shawn is there.
Wallace Shawn shows up with a rainbow afro, and he's like, Hank, and he's like, to the end of the rainbow, and he actually hits
It
a pretty good
works.
shot.
Yeah. Decent.
Um,
About the same as Bobby's shot.
hmm After that, we get a nice montage of them kind of crushing it in the fake hunting simulation.
Yeah, I loved the like cutout standees of like the animals popping up while
Hmm
Bobby headshots a deer and one of the animals that pops out is a monkey. Like all of the
Yep,
other ones, it's like you would see this in a forest and then a friggin' monkey pops
freaking
up.
monkey. A police officer pops up and Hank shoots the thumb off of it. The
And then they
instructor from
show
the
the
NRA boos. He shoots the thumb off and the guy goes boo.
Yeah, that was good.
So good. So after the hunt, Cotton shows up,
The worst
and
thing that could have happened.
Cotton is late because he was at the Wax Museum giving the finger to FDR.
And Luann also gives Hank a little bit of intel that the family that was in first opened fire on a family of picnickers
Uh-huh.
in the hunting
So now they're tied
simulation.
for
So they're
first.
tied for first. They're in the best
Yes.
possible position. And then that old son of a bitch shows up.
Mm-hmm. Um, got a little bit of Luann costuming here. Luann in this scene is going to be in jeans and a t-shirt and
Yeah.
not her trademark red shorts and green tank top.
She's got a red shirt.
Red shirt, but she is wearing jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cotton shows up and kind of immediately starts shitting on Hank.
Yeah, he said you better hope the target's the side of a barn.
Uh-huh. He's like, I'm here to be a shoulder to cry on, Bobby.
Sick
You're
burn.
gonna need it. He even mentions that he has a bet on this, like on the McKays.
On the McKays,
So
not on Hank. And we find out who he made that bet with
mhm,
at the end.
yes. So it all comes down to this.
The long
Bobby
range accuracy.
Bobby places a real good shot, and then it's Hank's turn.
I had a note here. When Bobby is walking over there, his muzzle control is awful. He fully just points the barrel of the gun at like four different people as
Oh,
he
I
walks
did not.
by.
I did not take that.
Holding the
Notice of
gun
it.
up, he like walks straight past someone with the gun up.
Yeah,
Don't do that, boys
should
and girls.
should be down. Should be down. That's basics. Basic shit.
But look at his instructor.
That's true.
He's missing a thumb and an eye.
Hank is going to talk to himself and then tell himself to stop talking to himself, and then he can't stop talking to himself essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, "All right, here, time to do it." Pulls the trigger and completely misses.
Yep. Airball.
The McKays win again. We do get to see that Cotton had bet with Dale.
Luann is consoling Peggy. Luann is like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get a divorce now, I think."
Yeah, it's
It's a solemn moment.
Peggy's like apprehension around Hank's performance, I think, was one of the funnier little side
Yeah.
bits to this, that like Peggy had so much writing on it emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Just from a reputation standpoint too around town. People are gonna know.
Hank is pretty bummed and let down, and I think he's ready for Bobby to be crushed about this, but Bobby is actually hyped up.
Yeah, this was
Bobby is
very
like
sweet.
on cloud nine. This was my favorite part of the episode.
Yeah.
We get a real nice line from Bobby. He says, "This is the best day ever. You're the best dad ever, and I'm the best, son ever."
Yeah, very sweet, very wholesome. Hank being a good dad alert. He kind of realizes what being a good dad is in this moment.
The instructor is going to give a weird thumbs up.
Yeah,
Again,
he
at
just
the
gives
end there.
use your other hand, dude.
Yeah, dude. He gives him the thumbs up, which was very funny. And then we get a fun scene of Hank and Bobby walking off into the sunset,
Yeah,
and
I did love that.
well, they're like, let's go get some ice cream. Like, where did we park? Over here. And then we go over here, and they're like, I guess we
forgot
forgot your
Mom.
mom. We ought to get her. And then
Yeah.
they come back to get her.
I
just
wonder
thought
if
it
they
was-
were short on runtime and they were like, we got to add in a little gag here. We were only landing at 21 minutes and 37 seconds.
I could see it being like they needed 10, 15 seconds
Yeah,
to
because
fill
they
here.
barely animated that gag. It was just like shoehorned in. And that's kind of my favorite kind of gag. It's the one where you can tell, like, we're trying to fill time here.
Yeah. So that's basically where it ends up at. There's no
Yep.
post-credit
No
scene here.
post-credit.
That's basically it.
That's the ep. We got through it. Season 2, episode 1.
Season 2,
Should we
episode
move
1.
should we move right into the alley, my dude?
Right to the alley, taking it out back.
All right.
Speaking of the alley, I'm on my last
Your
Fossil
last
Cove.
Alamo beer.
No, it's a Fossil Cove, dude. It's the T-Rex on Peaches.
Shout out Fossil Cove,
It's my
Fayetteville,
last one.
Arkansas.
I know these are special. They only come around at the end of the summer.
Damn. And it is not summer when we're recording this.
No, I've been saving them.
This, of course, is the segment of the show where we crack a few brews and we talk about how many we'd take out of the case and pound down for this episode. 6 Alamo beers being the best score, not even touching a drop being the worst. What are you
Sobriety, the
thinking?
worst.
Yeah, sobriety is the worst thing.
Bruh.
What do you
For
think
me-
on this one?
For me, I think it's a solid 3.
It's mid, I think.
It's a mid ep.
There's good. It's not bad. There's good jokes. I thought the story structure was pretty good.
The storyline itself was really, really good, but I feel like it was lacking on jokes a little bit. It was a
Yeah.
little light on the humor.
There were some good ones. There were some gems in there for sure. My biggest gripe was there not enough Luann.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think
it
would
was
have
a
been
very
funny.
Hank and Bobby set heavy episode, but more Hank heavy. Yeah, I would agree. Not super heavy on like the memorable jokes.
I think shooting could probably be one of those things that Luann would actually be like really good at,
Yeah,
like
like
fixing a car
surprisingly
that
great
she
at,
just
yeah.
like picks up, is really good, and then puts down and walks away. Like
Yeah.
I would have maybe appreciated seeing her a bit more. Yeah, but the humor that was there was good, but I felt like there was room for more. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not a huge standout for me, but I thought it was solid. I think I honestly might go more than 3. I think I
Oh,
might give
yeah?
this one a 4.
Going up to 4.
Even though like the stuff surrounding around guns and the referential like don't bring a gun to school, like it doesn't really age super well today just because of the landscape that we live in, but
Yeah.
it's still a really good episode.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think it stays at a 3 for me. I mostly think just because I don't know, it wasn't super spicy for me. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I think Wallace Shawn pushed it over the top for me.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts. Was the Wallace Shawn interaction there. I heard his voice and I was like, sick.
Yeah.
Inconceivable.
That was it because we talked about in the recap what we're like looking forward to for season 2, and both of us I think said guest stars because King of the Hill is known for them,
Mm-hmm.
and getting one right off
Right
the
off the
bat.
bat.
So that maybe I'll
off the
go
bat.
3.5 on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's quite a 4.
To your note on how different of a place the world is in between 97 and where we are at now in terms of gun culture. This is pre-Columbine when this episode comes out.
yeah.
So the joke about bringing a gun to
Yeah.
school, like that's guns in school to me are bad taste jokes now. I don't really like
Yeah,
to
I'm
hear
not
those
saying
types of
like
jokes.
that joke probably wasn't in poor taste then. Like I don't that's
Yeah.
not really a
Mhm.
criticism on the episode. I think
Yeah,
just
yeah.
looking at it with kind of that the lens of 2023.
Yeah. I mostly
It's
just
just
wanted to call
like,
that out for our listeners that this
yeah,
episode is actually
that
pre-Columbine.
is an important note because that was definitely a shift in the world. I didn't even live in this country when that happened, and I knew about it very well. So
Yeah, I think it's 3 for me. It could be a 4. I called it maybe a 3.5, but
I think I'm gonna go 3.5 too. I think we met in the middle, and that's what this
uh,
show's all about: democracy. Should
all
we do our
right.
final segment?
We should do our final segment.
The Hill King. First Hill King of season 2. This is the segment of the show where we crown the MVP of the frickin' episode. We don't think about it beforehand. We decide in the minute, on the moment, in the time that we're living in right
Hmm.
now. I'm stalling because I'm thinking of who mine would be. You
Well, I
drove
was
the
gonna
mower.
say I drove the mower, so traditionally that would make you the first
Yeah.
goer.
Yeah.
But if you're not
Uh
ready, I'll go ahead and I'll go if you're not ready.
yeah, yeah, hit me with your Hill King.
I think for this one, it's pretty obvious. I think the king for me is Bobby this episode.
Bobby Robert.
And I'm writing it down so we don't
Yeah, that's smart.
get into a recap situation like we
I
did
had a
last
hell
time.
of a time trying to find who we
Uh-huh.
chose for all of them. I
Yeah,
think Bobby is a good choice.
I think
I
it's
think,
Bobby. He found a sport that he loves. He was generally enthusiastic about it the entire time. He didn't even pick up really on the fact. I mean, he picked up on it a little, but he didn't let the fact that Hank was a bad shot like bring down the time that
yeah,
he
he was
had.
mainly just excited to spend time with his dad, which was
He was
cool.
excited to spend time with his
Yeah.
dad. Yeah, for me, this was a Bobby. He was like, "Can we do this again? Best day
But
ever. You're the
d
best dad."
is this a recurring character like storyline for Bobby at all? Do we
I don't
ever get anything again with Bobby shooting
I
anything?
don't think so, which was something I was trying to think of. I was like, "Oh, cool. I wonder if they're going to explore this in other parts."
Yeah,
And then I
because
was
if
trying to
that's the
think like,
case, then I might rescind my 3.5.
yeah.
Nah, yeah, I
Let
can't
us
knock
know in
the
the
episode.
comments if there's an episode outside of this season that you can think of where Bobby's marksmanship plays a role. Let us know in the comments if that episode is out there because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I have no recollection of that. But Bobby's a pretty good choice for this one. I commend you
Hmm.
kicking it off for the season. I think I am gonna go with young Hank
Young Hank,
from
nice.
the flashback where Cotton's yelling at him and he wants his binky back because I thought he was cute. I thought he was a cute little guy and
He
I
had a
felt
big
bad
head,
for him and he had a nice little big old head
big head.
and that stood out to me and
It
I
cracked me
think
up
he
that
deserves it.
Cotton said that Hank would be killed
Yeah, that's
in
fucked
that
up.
one flashback. He
It's
was
a
like, "You will
super
be
fucked up
drafted,
thing to say.
and some of you,
Some of you
like
will be
Hank,
like
will be
Hank.
killed."
Yeah. So I I empathized with Hank in those flashbacks and in this episode, and I also appreciate that he learned what it means to be a good dad. But I'm still not going to give it to current day Hank. I'm going to give it to baby young Hank, and
Maybe Hank.
that does not count for Hank in the final voting at
All
the
right.
end of the
Distinct
season.
young flashback Hank.
Distinct only the young Binky Hank is what we'll
Binky
call him.
Hank. I want my Binky back.
Yeah. So Binky Hank and Bobby put him on the board. First Hill Kings of the season. Season 2, episode 1. We did it. Little bit of sensitive subject matter in this one with the whole controversy of the gun stuff, but I think we kind of nailed the episode if you were
I
to
think so.
ask me.
I think so too. We definitely nailed the episode. We had a lot of nice references up top, and
And we love references.
we know that you folks are here for the references. Yeah, that was episode 1, how to fire a rifle without really telling.
What we got
Season
next week?
season 2, ep 2 is Texas City Twister.
And
So
we're,
stay
listener,
tuned.
we might be having our first guest.
Big asterisk on that might.
Might. because we don't know if they're going to show up or not, but we might be having our first guest.
Who knows?
Tune in next week to see if there's 3 people in the squares instead of 2.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So season 2, baby, we're in it.
Season 2, we're in it. If you're joining us from season 1, welcome back. If you're new here,
Hello.
welcome to the show. We have a whole first season you can go back and watch on YouTube.com if you want to see our faces, if you want to see the cool little visual references and gags. Every Hill King segment, there's I visualize it, little stuff comes up, and you can see which Hill Kings we've chosen in prior episodes. That's fun to see, huh? Wow, that's cool. What other podcast does that shit?
You can see the TV guide when we're doing This Week in Arlen.
Yeah, the whole This Week in Arlen is a visual medium. And what other podcast is doing shit like that? PowerPoints, dude? That's wild.
Wow.
But we respect you too. If you listen on Apple and Spotify, which you can also do, you should give us a rating on there if you are subscribing. If you're listening on YouTube, you can go over there as well if you want. If you want to listen in the car, who knows? You can also follow us and get a hold of us on Instagram and TikTok at hillkingspod.
Send us memes.
Please send us memes.
We have some folks that send some memes just today.
I got a good meme today.
I saw you
Reposted
chit-chatting with our boy Jet. Shout out to Jet. What up, my man?
Yes, one of my coworkers, also shout out to Narissa, sent me a meme that was Israel and Palestine related. But Hank, we also had a little bit of discourse with a listener that he thinks that Hank would probably just want to give both sides propane.
Hank does seem like a both sides type of guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. He would also probably support the IDF because Texas, but, is what it is.
Who knows? Do you think Hank actually knows that many Jewish people, though?
No.
There's a distinction between, Jewish people in the state of
Israel. Not
certainly.
A monolith, Chris. Not a monolith.
Of course, but I could definitely see Hank not knowing enough.
Yes, that is the
like,
problem, actually. That is the problem. Yeah. But funny meme all around. We love a meme that can focus on a sensitive issue and make you chuckle. Mm-hmm. That's cool to see, because what else is there really in this day and age other than chuckling? And we're glad that you tuned in to chuckle along with us and meme along with us. And we appreciate you, listener. We'll be back next week. Or viewer.
Chuckler.
Or a chuckler.
Uncles.
A chuckle fuck.
Uncles.
That's what we could call our fans for
Chucklin'
season 2.
uncles.
Chucklin' uncle fucks. Uncle fuckers. Anyway.
Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker.
You're a motor-biting bastard, Uncle Fucker. Ending the episode now. I'm ending it now.
You don't sleep on the lawn. You just fuck your uncle
all day long.
Nice.
Woof.